Have you ever wondered how animals can travel such long distances and survive in different environments? How do they find food, water, shelter, and mates along the way? And how do their movements impact the ecosystems they pass through? Hello and welcome to Curiosity, where we explore fascinating and interesting topics about everything. I'm sure you have heard of amazing stories of animal migration, such as the monarch butterflies that fly from North America to Mexico every autumn, or the salmon that swim upstream to their birthplace to spawn. But how do these animals know where to go and how to get there? What kind of cues do they use to navigate? Some animals use landmarks, such as mountains, rivers, or coastlines, to orient themselves and follow a familiar route. Others use the sun, the stars, or the Earth's magnetic field as a compass to guide them in a certain direction. And some animals use a combination of these methods, depending on the situation and the availability of signals. For example, honeybees can use the sun as a reference point to communicate the location of food sources to other bees with a waggle dance. They can also use the polarization pattern of the sky, which indicates the position of the sun even when it is cloudy, and the Earth's magnetic field, which helps them to orient themselves in relation to their hive. Homing pigeons are another example of animals that can use multiple cues to navigate. They can use the sun, the Earth's magnetic field, olfaction, and vision to find their way home from long distances. They can also learn landmarks along their route and form mental maps of their environment. But what about animals that migrate over vast distances without any familiar landmarks or guides? How do they know where they are and where they need to go? This is still a mystery for many species, but some clues have been discovered by scientists. One clue is that some animals have an innate sense of direction and distance that allows them to navigate without any prior experience. For instance, sea turtles and salmon can return to their natal beach or stream after years of wandering in the ocean, using chemical cues from the water or geomagnetic cues from the Earth. Monarch butterflies can find a specific tree in Mexico from thousands of miles away, using a combination of celestial cues and an internal clock that tells them when to migrate. Another clue is that some animals can sense changes in their environment that indicate they are approaching their destination. For example, birds can detect changes in air pressure, temperature, humidity, or wind direction that signal they are near their breeding or wintering grounds. Some birds can also use infrasound, or low-frequency sound waves that travel long distances through the air or ground, to locate their target areas. These are just some of the ways that animals can navigate across long distances. There are probably many more that we don't know yet, as animal navigation is a complex and fascinating topic that still puzzles scientists and inspires curiosity. Let's take a closer look at some of the theories and examples of how animals use different cues to find their way. Sun and stars. The sun and stars are among the oldest and most reliable cues for navigation. Many animals can use them as a compass to determine their direction relative to a fixed point on Earth. For example, starlings orient themselves using the path of the sun across the sky. However, using the sun or stars as a compass requires some adjustments for factors such as time of day, season, latitude, and cloud cover. Some animals have an internal clock that helps them to compensate for these changes. For example, monarch butterflies have a circadian rhythm that allows them to adjust their flight direction according to the position of the sun throughout the day. They also have a seasonal clock that tells them when it is time to migrate south in autumn and north in spring. Some animals can also use specific constellations or patterns of stars as landmarks or guides. For example, indigo buntings learn to recognize the stars near it as juveniles and use them as a reference point for orientation at night. Similarly, dung beetles use the Milky Way as a cue to roll their balls of dung in a straight line away from competitors. Magnetic field. The Earth's magnetic field is another cue that many animals can use for navigation. The magnetic field has two components, intensity and inclination angle. Intensity refers to how strong the magnetic force is at a given location, while inclination angle refers to how steeply the magnetic field lines enter the Earth's surface. Both components vary across different regions of the Earth and can provide information about latitude and longitude. Some animals have specialized cells or organs that allow them to sense the magnetic field directly. For example, some birds have magnetite crystals in their beaks or brains that act as tiny compasses. Some fish and turtles have magnetite in their skin or bones that help them to detect changes in the magnetic field. Some bacteria and algae have chains of magnetite that align with the magnetic field and influence their movement. Some animals can also use the magnetic field as a map to locate their position relative to their goal. For example, sea turtles can imprint on the magnetic signature of their natal beach and use it as a reference point to return to it after years of wandering in the ocean. Similarly, salmon can remember the magnetic characteristics of their natal stream and use them to find their way back to it from the open sea. Landmarks. Landmarks are physical features of the environment that animals can use to orient themselves and follow a route. Landmarks can be natural, such as mountains, rivers, or trees, or artificial, such as buildings, roads, or bridges. Landmarks can provide information about direction, distance, or location, depending on how they are perceived and remembered by the animal. Some animals can use landmarks as a simple cue to guide their movement. For example, gray whales mostly follow the west coast of Canada and the United States as they migrate between Alaska and Baja, Mexico. Dolphins follow the topography of the ocean floor. Elephants follow paths that have been used by generations of their ancestors. Some animals can also use landmarks to form mental maps of their environment and plan their routes accordingly. For example, bees can learn the locations and distances of multiple food sources and their hive and optimize their foraging trips. Rats can explore a maze and remember its layout and rewards. Pigeons can memorize landmarks along their flight paths and use them to correct for errors or detours. Sound. Sound is another cue that animals can use for navigation. Sound can travel long distances through air or water and provide information about direction, distance, or location of a source. Sound can also reflect off objects and create echoes that animals can use to perceive their surroundings. Some animals can use sound as a signal to communicate with others of their species and coordinate their movements. For example, whales and dolphins use vocalizations to maintain contact, exchange information, and synchronize their behavior. Birds use songs and calls to attract mates, defend territories, and warn of predators. Some animals can also use sound as a cue to locate their destination or avoid obstacles. For example, bats and dolphins use echolocation to emit high-frequency sounds and listen for the echoes that bounce back from objects in their environment. They can use this information to navigate in the dark, find prey, or avoid predators. Some birds can also use infrasound to detect low-frequency sound waves that are generated by natural phenomena such as ocean waves, thunderstorms, or earthquakes. They can use this information to orient themselves and find suitable habitats. Smell. Smell is another cue that animals can use for navigation. Smell can provide information about direction, distance, or location of a source, depending on how the odor molecules are dispersed by air or water currents. Smell can also indicate the quality or quantity of a resource, such as food, water, or mates. Some animals can use smell as a signal to communicate with others of their species and influence their behavior. For example, ants use pheromones to mark trails, recruit workers, or alarm nestmates. Moths use pheromones to attract mates over long distances. Dogs use urine to mark territories and convey information about their identity and status. Some animals can also use smell as a cue to track their origin or destination. For example, salmon can imprint on the chemical signature of their natal stream and use it to find their way back to it from the ocean. Rats can follow scent trails left by themselves or others to return to a familiar place or explore a new one. Pigeons can use olfactory cues from the atmosphere or the terrain to orient themselves and home in on their loft. These are just some of the ways that animals can navigate across long distances using different cues from their environment. There are probably many more that we don't know yet, as animal navigation is a complex and fascinating topic that still puzzles scientists and inspires curiosity. That's all for today's episode. Thank you for watching Curiosity. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. And don't forget to share your thoughts and questions in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.